Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into what is frankly a monumental legal showdown against Meta. Now, this isn't just another story about corporate fines. It's a profound test of how technology, youth safety, and the future architecture of the internet are all colliding. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with kids are the product, move into the predictable outcome, explore the hook, harvest, and hide strategy, look at big tech's tobacco moment, and finally wrap up with a trillion-dollar reckoning. All right, Section 1. Kids are the product. Let's look at the opening argument. U.S. prosecutors kicked off their case against Meta with three incredibly stark words. Kids are the product. Think about how that completely flips the script on how we usually view social media. The state is arguing here that Meta's core business model doesn't actually serve children, but rather it relies on treating their attention as the inventory itself. It's a heavy accusation to set the stage. And to really grasp the scale of what's being claimed, just look at how families are describing this outside the courtroom. One individual stated, "I was a guinea pig for more than 2 decades. They ran their experiment on an entire generation." That phrasing, an entire generation, it frames this lawsuit not just as a bunch of isolated complaints, but as this massive, unconsented behavioral study that's been running in the background for 20 years. Moving on to Section 2, the predictable outcome, where we look at the very real human cost. Because underneath this giant macroeconomic legal battle, there are deeply personal, localized tragedies. A central narrative in this case is the heartbreaking story of Riley Bassford. Riley tragically took his own life after falling victim to an apparent sextortion scheme on Facebook. For the prosecution, stories like Riley's, these devastating losses, they form the absolute emotional bedrock of their legal strategy against Meta. The plaintiffs are arguing that these tragedies, well, they aren't just spontaneous flukes. Riley's mother, Mary Rod, powerfully framed it like this. She called it the predictable outcome of a system that protects corporations instead of children. That hits right at the core of the legal argument. They're claiming that Meta's design choices are yielding exactly what you'd expect, dangerous results by design. Which brings us to Section 3, hook, harvest, and hide. Let's break down the alleged strategy. So before we get into the weeds, let's map out the battlefield here. On one side, you've got a powerhouse coalition of 29 states, led by California, Colorado, New Jersey, and Kentucky. They are claiming Meta deliberately fueled a youth mental health crisis for profit. On the exact opposite side, you have Meta, with top executives like CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Instagram chief Adam Mosseri, who are fiercely defending their record on teen safety and calling these allegations entirely unsubstantiated. So we're looking at a direct collision of two completely incompatible realities. Now here is the specific mechanism the prosecutors allege Meta used. It's a highly engineered, 3-part loop. Step 1, hook users. Keep them glued to the platform. Step 2, harvest their data while they're highly engaged. And Step 3, hide the platform's true psychological effects from the public. The states claim this exact operational cycle is what maximizes profit at the direct expense of youth mental health. Let's pivot to Section 4, Big Tech's Tobacco Moment, the historical parallels. Legal experts are actually looking back in time to understand the absolute magnitude of what's happening today. They're drawing a straight line between this case and the historic litigation against big tobacco. Think about it. Just like nicotine and tar were linked to physical harm like cancer, prosecutors today are trying to link features like the infinite scroll and data harvesting to a psychological crisis. And to put that into perspective, the big tobacco master settlement was over $206 billion. But honestly, the numbers in this tech lawsuit could potentially dwarf that. And that leads us into our final segment, Section 5, a trillion-dollar reckoning. Let's look at the stakes. Because if the plaintiffs actually win this landmark case, the financial fallout could be completely unprecedented. We're talking about estimates suggesting damages could reach a staggering $1.4 trillion. I mean, $1.4 trillion. A penalty of that size wouldn't just be a slap on the wrist. It could fundamentally fracture the financial architecture of one of the most powerful tech companies on the planet. But here's the kicker. The financial blow might actually take a backseat to the structural one. The court could legally mandate some massive changes, like forcing Meta to implement strict age restrictions, or even totally eliminating highly engaging features like the infinite scroll. Basically, the core mechanics of how you and I use social media every single day could literally be redesigned by a court order. Yet even with all these trillion-dollar estimates and high-level debates over algorithmic design, the plaintiffs keep pulling the focus back to the human element.
Outside the courtroom, they stated, "Our children should have grown up. Instead, we are left to speak for them." It's an incredibly sobering reminder that at the very center of all this massive legal machinery, there are grieving parents speaking for kids they've lost.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pivotal question to chew on. What will the future landscape of the internet actually look like if things like infinite scrolling and systemic data harvesting are legally eliminated? The verdict in this case isn't just going to reshape Meta. It has the potential to permanently alter the daily digital reality for every single one of us.